Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have, I don't have any announcements, but we have a presentation, a hearing regarding a waiver of off-street parking for...
President Griffin,
First
before we move into the presentation, I just need to announce that we did have an executive session, provide notice on a matter of employment, legal matter, and a real property matter. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we have a, what's it called? Crystal Closets Incorporated? Presentation?
Yes. So moving into the presentations, if Chris Stetler can please come to the podium. And we will be discussing a hearing regarding a waiver of off-street parking at 4 East First Avenue.
This is similar to the waiver of off-street parking you considered a month or so ago. 4 and 6 East First Avenue are really the same building, just two different sides. And Megan Christel is leasing 2 of the offices there. She operates a small consulting and e-commerce site with 1 employee. The site has no possibility of doing any kind of off-street parking, and it's the same as you considered before. I did ask her to be here. I don't know if she's here tonight. Guess not. So this is something that will be appropriate to consider.
Where is it at, Chris? Where is it at?
It's 2 of the offices at the Storty Building.
On top.
On top. Yeah. And she simply said that she was looking for a space, so she wasn't working out of her home anymore.
So she only has 1 employee?
Yeah, it's just her, as far as I can tell. Now, maybe there's something else, I don't know. But it's called Crystal Closets, and she's leasing 2 of the offices there, 1 for storage and 1 for a work area.
Okay, you can stay up because we're going to move right into, but so on the June 21st meeting, you will be asked to approve that waiver. Moving on to council business, I've asked Ms. Stetler to stay up at the podium to review and consider the 345 East 8th Avenue zoning hearing board application.
This is a residential property, and the request is this zoning request is for a variance for built area. Built area is permitted to be 35% of a lot area. The owners of this property want to put in a small garage, which will make the built area be 37.5%. This is a very small variance. There are no other buildings other than the dwelling on the property. The plan that they are proposing meets all of the other zoning requirements. The size of the garage will be 350 square feet. The property owners are here if you have questions for them, but they do meet all the other requirements. It's very de minimis. You know, we tried to find a way to make it work and just couldn't get it down that far.
What does 2.5% even? It's got to be just inches.
When I did the math, I tried it a couple of other ways, like if you took a foot off here or if you moved something back a little bit, and it really just couldn't get it to 35, or we wouldn't be here.
Right.
It's more than a foot, I will tell you that.
Okay.
But it's, and as you reduce the size of this, you really eliminate the ability to keep the vehicles in there that they need to keep in there.
Okay.
So,
Is that what you're going to use it for, a vehicle?
Yeah.
If you can come to the podium. Thank you.
this is Joanne Prendergast. She's the owner of the property.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hello.
and this is my husband Dennis. We actually have a truck, so it's just fitting that truck in as well. And then we don't have like a shed at the moment either, so just being able to store like our lawnmower and things like that safely would be kind of nice. So that's the size that we kind of need.
We encourage people building
Yes.
garages and
Yes,
taking vehicles
definitely.
off the street.
Yeah,
Especially off the alley.
Yeah, off the alley.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess my only question would be any concern that we would have for future, whether this sets any sort of it's just a variance for this, and that it wouldn't be any potential for anything.
No, anyone else would have to come.
No, this is a very de minimis variance. And the size of the lot is such that they really couldn't expand it to make it any bigger.
Okay.
So, this doesn't really set any kind of a precedent. It just is a reasonable modification to what the ordinance says to allow the proper use of the property.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application in front of you is 130 West Fifth Avenue. Chris, if you could just give some background.
Okay. 130 West Fifth Avenue is the old St. Cosmas and Damian School, which then became Conshohocken Catholic Early Learning Center. And in 2015, the church opened an infant daycare center on the grade level. They opened that until the regular community center at St. Matt's was opened. So the building has been vacant for some time. There's no question that the use of the building, the non-conforming use in the residential district, it has not been abandoned. We have had a number of calls on this property wanting to know how many units they can put in there, and the response is always, how much parking do you have? They are requiring the new owners of the building have a tenant who wish to put in a bilingual school, which would include nursery school, eventually kindergarten, summer day camps, and daycare. St. Matt's was approved for daycare on the grade level of the property and only for that one floor. So because this is now a non-conforming use in the residential neighborhood, they need a special exception to expand the use to the second floor of the building. What they're choosing to do is to request a special exception, a variance, to expand that non-conforming use through the whole building. Under the zoning ordinance, you're permitted to expand a non-conforming use through a building one time, 25% of the gross floor area of the building. Going the whole 3 stories of the building will probably exceed the 25%. So they need a special exception to expand it, and then a variance to go beyond 25%. And the third is a variance to a loop in the zoning ordinance. In the zoning ordinance, you are required to have a state license for daycare in order to get your zoning. And you have to have your zoning to get a state license. So this has been approved by the zoning board on 2 other occasions. Nothing else. The other non-conforming elements of this building have not changed. There was a variance granted for having a play area within 30 feet of residential properties, so that ran with the land, so they don't need anything for that. The manager for this is here today, if you have some questions for Melody.
Yeah, I got one question.
Hi, I'm Melody Doherty. I'm going to be the director, hopefully, of this new center.
Melody, I got one question for you.
Sure.
You're going to have a pick-up and drop-off for the kids when the parents come to pick them up?
We will,
Yeah.
yes. We're actually working with a traffic survey company right now
Right.
in Philadelphia, and they are putting together a plan that's going to be available at the hearing date that we are scheduled to attend when we find out when that is, and we'll be able to present that at that time. One thing that will help alleviate a little bit is because we're not doing traditional school, there won't be that huge congestion of that 1 hour between 8 and 9. There will be drop-off times sporadically and periodically between 7 and 9, so there won't be that huge jam of 1 hour at the beginning and 1 hour at the end of the day. It will help alleviate some of that congestion.
Yeah, because Fifth Avenue gets pretty busy in the morning there, but that's great. That's great. And you'll give us that report?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
They were asked to look into this because simply we know what Fifth Avenue was like when St.
Right.
Matt's had their daycare there. I believe they've already been in touch with the chief of police about this to get his input on it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Council, on some of the larger applications like this in the past, council has made a decision whether you want to take a position, not take a position before the zoning board. Do you want to support the application, not support the application, let it proceed? If anybody has a thought one way or the other.
No,
You
I
could-
support it.
I support it.
That'd be fun.
Okay. So then if you'd like to support the both applications, I should ask?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll draft the standard letter that we'll support, and we'll put that on for action at the voting meeting.
Okay.
We still want the traffic report, though.
Yes, yes. You're going to do
Make sure that you park in the
traffic
garage.
pattern analysis for a traffic study.
Yeah, we want to make sure you park in the garage.
Bob will drive by, we'll make sure your car's in there.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
I thought we settled this.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion on the final location of the flagpole outside of Borough Hall. So,
The ground.
well, that's a given. What was ordered for Borough Hall was a 52-foot flagpole. Once it's put together and it's correctly ready to be installed, it probably comes out to 45 feet high. In terms of installation, based off that height of that flagpole requires some significant installation, which is, and correct me if I'm wrong, both Ray or Paul, is 4 feet wide and 4 feet deep of concrete. So the question is, are you aware that is the size of the flagpole? And are you comfortable with us proceeding with the installation of that size of a flagpole? And if so, we have a recommended location, which would be between the monument sign outside and the letter N that finishes the word Conshohocken on the front of the building against the brick. Keeping in mind that we need to be careful in terms of not disturbing the sprinkler line and or the electrical conduit, if I've said that correctly.
So then where is, for the height of the flagpole relative to the signage? Not the Conshohocken, but our,
And maybe if Ray and Paul can come up to the front to assist any questions that they might have.
So the actual finished height of this flagpole that was ordered is 50 feet.
Okay.
It's a 50-foot high finished flagpole. It would be approximately 20 feet above the roof line. Nice. After it was installed, and approximately 20 feet above the roof line when it was installed. And there's not many locations that we could put it.
Right.
We were looking at in between the two buildings, the Wells Fargo building and our building. We have gas and water there, so we can't do it there. And we walked it off the other day, and there is, it's pretty limited, especially that size flagpole.
So what's the matter with the place we just talked about between the, where we're going to, we talked?
Well, that was
The
the
original.
discussion,
That's
is that
the-
if that's where you want it, that's
Yeah.
where we'll
Yeah.
try to locate it.
So-
What's the likelihood that we wouldn't hit
Yeah, that was my.
gas or water? And based on our luck, please be honest.
No, we'll miss it.
One way or another, we won't hit it.
Thank you.
Test holes.
So I think that what we are attempting to do is finish outstanding projects. This is an outstanding project. We've received multiple questions, so I know it seems as though this might be repetitive or there might be some humor involved in it, but it is a legitimate concern of ours to get this project complete.
So,
A lot of people have asked about that.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why do we have such a large flagpole?
Because we want the largest in the borough.
That's what was
And
ordered.
escape-
That's who is ordered.
That's what was ordered. Okay.
A little bit of light on that. I was told that the flagpole was ordered to be approximately the same size as the one up at the mansion.
yeah.
And then that some of the height of the flagpole has to do with the fact that there are 3 flags on it. And flagpole height often has to do with the size of flag area, so it kind of looks proportional.
Yeah.
So, and then having 3 flags stacked on top of each other, the extra height kind of helps to make it
Makes
a little
sense.
more proportional to all those
Makes
3
sense.
were kind of
so
so close to the
that
ground.
is our plan to have 3
It'll
flags?
probably still look
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
tall, but
absolutely.
that's as far as I know.
It's the
about
American
the
flag,
height.
the state
I'm
flag.
okay
and our
with it.
flag.
I don't, you know.
What are the 3 flags, Anita?
It's our American flag, our state flag, and our borough flag.
And we have that up at the mansion?
Yes.
There are 3 that are right behind you.
What's that?
3 at the back.
Yeah, I know we have them here.
So before we move forward, we're going to be getting quotes for installation. We need confirmation that we're moving forward with that size of flagpole and the size of flags that are associated with that size of flagpole.
We have those yet?
The flags?
Yes.
I do not believe so.
No.
So the costs for
for each of the flags.
Installation of the concrete, installation of the flagpole, and then the flags themselves. This is out of the project budget. This would have to be funds appropriate.
That's correct, and the request for appropriation would come once we have those numbers that I would put in front of you.
So one way, we still have to buy flags.
Yeah, we
so,
still
I
have
mean,
to
What
put-
are we talking about the flags? I mean, that's, whatever, we're gonna put a flagpole up no matter what, so the flags, we're definitely going to buy flags, so I mean,
It's gonna require approximately 3 yards of concrete. You're
Yeah.
basically building
So-
a vault.
so it's $500 for 3 yards of concrete. It's the labor and the crane to put the
And,
flagpole
yeah,
up.
it's gonna require a crane.
Crane,
We're not
yes.
gonna be able to do it with
Yeah.
anything but a crane.
And then 10,000
I don't, and
flags.
I don't think any of that was anticipated.
They
So,
can't use the hydraulic
It's two
lift.
sections, it's two 26-foot sections. The bottom
Myself, I'm
section's
good with
very
it. I don't know
heavy.
about the rest of council.
I'm
but-
fine.
Okay, so
fine.
we're
We have to
fine
move
with that-
forward.
Yeah.
That location that we talked about
Yes.
originally, or there was a
This one here.
mention-
No,
No,
this
are
is-
we good with the one
We're-
that Stephanie described?
only possibility.
Yeah,
The only
it
one
is.
possibility, but
We need to go with-
We're
Okay,
good?
I thought that you guys
No.
down there, okay, then we're all,
We're good to go.
then we're
Okay.
set on that.
Okay. Move forward with getting quotes for both
Yes.
installation, cost of flags, and those numbers will be put in front of you as soon as we have them.
Okay,
Okay?
All right.
great.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Lights.
Do we have lights?
I'm
for
not
it?
sure, I'm not sure. We'll blitz.
Do we
Thank
have
you.
light on it?
Okay, thanks
You
for
have
the
to have
yes.
a-
Have
You
a
have to
light,
have-
have
you have to have a light
on it.
Okay,
Yeah,
Upshot.
that's a requirement, yeah.
okay. Thank you. Next up is considering adoption of a fire services agreement, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Sokolowski.
So, council, I handed out a little bit earlier a copy of what could be considered a fire service agreement. In light of it being 2017 and the fact that we have two fire departments that are volunteer fire departments providing services to the borough, I feel strongly that we would need to create an agreement with those fire services to protect both the volunteers as well as to set some standards of operation. And what I would recommend is that we look at adopting a fire service agreement in coordination with the two fire departments as we move forward.
So would you like us to read this?
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah, so what I'd
get
like
back
to
to you
do is
with comments?
take a look at it over the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Get back to us with comments, and then we can work with the fire departments to talk about what that would look like and what expectations could be as we move forward, expectations from the borough to the fire departments, and then vice versa.
Have you made copies of this available to the fire departments?
I have copies that we
Oh,
can
good.
share with them,
Okay.
yes.
Just to clarify the process, so in 2 weeks, you will approve the adoption and moving forward with the creation of fire services agreement. In terms of actually hashing out what those specifications would be, do you have a process that you would like? Are you comfortable with Mr. Savona and I working directly with the fire departments to get specifications that we would then put in front of you?
Yes, so I think that with the feedback from council over the next 2 weeks, we can provide that
Okay.
to you and Mr. Savona, and then you guys can hash out with the fire companies what the final outcome would be.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Manager, your matters,
Matters.
your matters.
Moving on to manager matters. The first item for consideration is a fee waiver request for Soul Yoga. Soul Yoga is a yoga studio which is outside the boundaries of Conshohocken. However, they are hosting a fundraiser the Friday before Father's Day weekend at Sutcliffe Park. The benefit goes to Beats for Bella, which funds go to a local family with a child who is suffering from a congenital heart defect. They have reserved their time at Sutcliffe Park They've requested 2 hours. The fee is $70 an hour, so the total that would be due is $140, and they're requesting that council consider waiving that fee. Because it's an outside entity of the Borough of Conshohocken, I've brought it to your attention.
So we're only looking at that one part of the request. We're not looking at the second part of the request.
We would not accept the request to waive any insurance liability.
Right.
So if you are
I'm
comfortable,
I'm with it.
I'm fine with it.
just because of the timing with the event being prior to the voting session, I would just ask if we could get a consideration this evening.
I'll make a motion
And
to
I'll
waive
second.
the fee.
And I'll second that, yes.
I had to abstain on that.
Okay.
Well, I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The second matter is approving the auction of an Inferno fire truck through Municipid. The fire company currently has a fire truck that we are no longer utilizing, and I would like permission to auction it through Municipid with a potential bid of $60,000.
Who gets the money?
The borough does.
The borough does?
Okay, we'll auction higher.
Well, the minimum bid would be,
The minimum bid would be 40.
40?
The minimum threshold would be 40. We would go in to start bidding at 60.
How did we establish the 60?
Our fire chief made that recommendation.
What happens if you don't get that, if you don't even reach the minimum? You just,
It comes,
Rebid it.
you would
You do?
rebid it,
Okay.
yes. So that will be up for consideration in 2 weeks as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is a discussion matter on the Board of Code Appeals. I want to just bring it to everyone's attention that currently we have a vacancy for a Board of Code Appeals, and because of that, we do not have a Board of Code Appeals. Meaning that citations and violations that come in through the borough office to the office of the borough manager, which residents have the right to do, because I cannot offer them any due process, they are automatically granted. So the need to expedite to fill that vacancy is paramount.
And how do we go about that? And
So-
who should do it?
we discussed this, if you recall, last year. The Board of Code Appeals right now is made up of 3 individuals just appointed by the Borough Council, much like your zoning hearing board. They operate in a similar fashion, where the zoning board hears appeals from zoning matters. The Board of Code Appeals hears appeals from either the building code, the construction code, the electric code, the fire code, or the property maintenance code. And that's normally where these kinds of appeals come in. Someone's cited for grass being too high, they disagree, they file an appeal, they have a right to do that. If we don't have a board who can adjudicate that appeal, then the appeal has to be administratively granted, which means that we lose the ability to enforce our code in the event that happens. So all you need to do, and I think last year we had discussed, and the borough administration may have advertised for applicants, but I don't believe we ever moved forward on actually appointing anyone to fill any vacancies.
So we have 3 vacancies?
There are 3 vacancies. It's important we get at least 2 members appointed
Yes.
so we could have a quorum in the event something does transpire. And as Stephanie said, it's become urgent more recently, so.
Did you want to give an example of why?
I was going to say, do we have examples of things that we've had to?
So I'll use one example that's come to light is we have an exposed gas meter on a resident's house on Sutcliffe Lane. That per the property maintenance code, it is a violation. It's an unprotected gas meter that presents a safety hazard. Because of that was cited. The remedy for that is to install a bollard. And because of that expense and the need, we've received an appeal to that citation and violation.
So 7-Eleven
So in
had a
that-
meter for 20 years, a gas meter on the side of the building, like, and they never had a pole in front of it, sat there for 20 years. Every time I walked by it, I wondered why they never put something in front of it. Would have blow the whole block up.
Right, so I guess that's the sentiment with our code enforcement
now.
officers, is that if they see a safety hazard, they need to enforce it.
So what steps do we need to take? What kind of, to
Just-
fill these?
We need to find
advertise?
people to
We-
fill.
So
Yes.
it's advertised on our website, but
Right,
if
okay.
there's
You need to encourage anyone who
Encourage
might be interested
someone to
to.
apply.
But they
submit their
gotta
name.
have some background with some,
So.
Well, that's
I mean,
the question.
Well, in an ideal world and under the model format that's set up under the ICC code, there are certain qualifications that each member of the board would have to fill before they could be appointed. One architect, one engineer, one contractor. Several years ago, though, when the borough established the Board of Code Appeals, you elected to modify that so that it's any resident, it can be filled by any resident of the borough, just like the zoning hearing board or the planning commission. In practical terms, it's very difficult sometimes to fill a board like that with those people who have those qualifications and are also residents of the borough. And, you know, a lot of times they're reluctant to, you may get one guy who's qualified and doesn't want to serve, so. That's why we lifted those restrictions. In an ideal world, I agree with you, it'd be good to have people who have that expertise, but
So I'm
it's not
wondering, with
required.
all of the, we had a great pool of candidates for the task force, for the comprehensive plan task force, and I don't know if there's some that we can reach out to that
Revisit.
didn't get to be a part of it, but they really are very interested in participating
Yep.
in the
That's what I was
borough.
thinking about.
Yeah, maybe we
Okay.
can,
We can
Go
definitely
through
work on,
those.
we
Can
can
they
go on
meet at
that.
night?
Mhm.
Just like every other board, okay.
but we need to have a resume from.
And actually, if I recall correctly, under some circumstances, they can decide appeals in writing, so they don't even have to hold a formal hearing. It's not required. So if we needed to, you could have, staff or administration, my office, prepare a recommended decision. They review it, they could vote on it, and we could issue it by mail if push came to shove. So it's literally the least onerous board to serve on.
okay.
We just, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Can you step up?
Actually, we wait for public comment
Oh,
to the
that's
end,
true.
so if you don't mind. Public comment we reserve for
Yeah,
the end.
Can we
We'll get
discuss
back
that
to you,
public
yes.
comment?
I won't forget. Any other conversation?
Nope.
Anything
So the goal would be to have some names, hopefully, for consideration
Potentially
in 2
for the
weeks.
21st.
People run for lunch.
And so Seth, though, you are going to reach out?
I can reach out to the task force members.
Thank you.
Yep. We ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is, there are some supplemental appropriations from